Well, welcome to another edition of Life, Death, and the Law. I'm Shawn, Garner. I have some special guests, very special guests today. Thomas Sparks, he's attorney with our law firm, and Martin, he's generally behind the scenes, editing and making sure that all the foolish things that we say don't make it out to the final cut. Today, we're going to be talking about a couple of things, AI, and we see how all the experts predicted it's going to implement changes in society and in our lives. But I want to talk about what we've actually seen and what we anticipate living in the age of AI. So in the past year, Thomas, I'll let you go first. What have you seen different? What are your different behaviors based on AI? Like it, hate it, scared of it? What?
Yeah, well, let's paint the picture here, show you my journey through the last little bit. And I won't go all the way back to Constantinople, but we'll get there.
All right.
Okay, so I didn't really do anything with AI before I joined the firm. That's a little more than a year and a half ago. And then Adam, the other partner attorney in the firm, was so into it. I got curious and started, looking into AI and all that stuff. So I've had a relatively short interaction, but I just have to say I think I'm just jumping 2 feet in. I love it. I went from maybe just doing
you can't not be using it now because it's on your phone, right?
Sure.
It's in a Google search.
Right.
It'll automatically pop up an AI summary of what it thinks you're searching for and what the responses ought to be. And then it'll pull up the websites, which is what Google used to do before, is just you'd search for something and it'd pull up websites. Now it's giving you an analysis right at the top of your search bar or the search results.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I first started to notice, so that's a really good feature. I like that. I don't even have to click the link anymore. It already did the research for me, gives me an answer. Most of the time, it's right. I haven't had very many times where AI has really gotten it wrong, which is good. I mean, I'm all for the automation. I want my life as easy as possible, and I want the answers as fast as I can get them so I can move on to the next thing, and AI is pretty darn good at that.
So I got a question for you, Martin. Have you ever been talking about something not on the phone or in text or an email, just in a conversation, and then do a search or are looking through Instagram or Facebook and a product related to that conversation starts to be advertised to you?
Oh, all the time. That is truly one of those things where you start realizing that they are listening to you
They must be.
all the time, actually.
Have you had that happen too,
Oh,
Thomas?
yeah. It's usually like suggestive ads.
Yeah.
I'll talk about something random and then an ad will pop
It'll
up.
be, yes, in a conversation that you think's private, and then you start scrolling through, just looking at your TikTok or Instagram or Facebook, and ads on that product starts coming up. It's crazy.
Yeah, and then I don't know if you've paid attention to it, but usually somewhere along the feed it'll tell you oh, this is based off of other products you viewed on Amazon. It'll say that to you, or it'll say places you've interacted with. And I think that's just a little cover up to say that, we were listening to you, but we're going to put it under the guise of you interacted with something similar to this.
Yeah. That's gonna, I think, in the next congressional set of hearings, because, the last one was that Facebook was intentionally trying to put out content that would get young people addicted and spend more screen time on their phones. And not only that, but it was also linking it up to sex activities and pedophiles and things like that. And it was crazy that they would go into that, because it was something that was not only highly addictive, but suggestive to activities that were not even legal, let alone moral. So that was a big problem, and they said, okay, we're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on the algorithm. But now I think the next set of hearings is going to be, why is our phone listening to us when we don't have it on, when we're not using it, or even when we are using it, but not specifically with that app? How is that app getting that information?
Well, I don't know if you you've experienced with it, but Hey Siri on our phones.
Uh-huh.
So that one was, I remember when that feature first came out, it was a huge deal because people brought up the discussion of, well, when is it actually listening to you? Because it has to be listening 24/7 to understand that you're, Hey Siri, and for it to pop up. I remember the discourse behind that was deciding, should this feature even be a thing? Because it's going to require you to listen to it. And I personally feel that people just swept it under the carpet. Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, I think that the convenience of having all the modern day technology has, for now, outweighed the fear of us giving up our privacy, and people have exchanged their privacy for that convenience.
Yeah, I think that's always been the sticking point is, those long privacy policies that you accept when you buy something that you don't read.
Mm-hmm.
All of it's all in there. Like you're consenting to it. The question would be is, as the people and the government by representation, are we going to pass a law that says you're not allowed to consent to that anymore? Like we're just going to say you can't consent to that.
Or it's got to be, and I could see them creating a law that it's got to be something that you've got to officially initial or sign. But today, we got DocuSign, and you're going through hundreds of pages of signatures if you're going to be buying a house or signing up for even opening up a new account. And those documents come to you through DocuSign, and you click, okay, do you want to go straight to the signatures? And you're like, yeah, I'm going to go straight to signatures because I want to open up this account. I trust this bank to as much as I can. And so I'm going to open up the account. They're not going to let me edit the small print, right? So my choices are, am I going to work with this bank or not? And then I'm just going to go straight to it and sign it. So I don't think there's anything that Congress can really do, even if they authorized or required additional authorization for those privacy things. Nobody's reading that stuff. And the more that gets put in there, I think the less it gets read because I think somebody's less likely to read a 100-page contract than they are a 1-page contract.
Absolutely. And like, you'd have to go so far as for them to say, it doesn't matter how many signatures you get. You cannot do that, or you can't use the data you collect by Siri listening in. It would be illegal. And then that's going to, and there's a double-edged sword to that. Like you're going to inhibit, I would say, like the usefulness of the feature.
The convenience of the feature,
Right.
which we've opted into doing it because you can turn off Siri on your phone.
Yeah, I was gonna say this point, but I think it's it's evolved way past even our phones now. You got the Alexa in the house or the Google Dot, or I have HomePods at my house. But then also, some cars listen to you now. Like my cars recently have had either the Google built in, but I know some other like more premium brands have where you can just say like, "Hey Mercedes," and it'll listen to you.
Yeah, my Tesla has Grok built into it.
Yep. Hit the mic button, ask a question, and it's there.
I guess whether it's worth it or not, we're here and we all use it. So we've all essentially consented just by what we're doing. How do you feel it's changed your everyday production, Martin? Has it made you more productive, or has it distracted you more from the things that you need to do a deep focus on?
I'll say it definitely has helped me. I think the number one thing that I really enjoy about AI is how fast it collects everything, because the more specific you are with your prompt, that's what it all boils down to, what your prompt was. Because you could say, find me, like I use it during school for one of my projects where I have to do research on a certain project, but when I put in the prompt, I put parameters of, it has to be a scholarly article. It has to be published within the last 5 years. So the more you tell it and the more specific you are, the better result you're going to get. But also at the same time, when AI hallucinates, if you don't have the common sense to actually check it, you're just submitting false information.
So you just used a word that I'm not familiar with, hallucinating AI.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird.
So what does that mean?
It just messed up. And that's
it just filled in a blank that it didn't find legitimate information for, so it just made up information?
To my understanding, yeah, because I know a lot of people say that AI will pull, in AWC, the one of the main issues is people who use AI who are trying to get away with it and have it do its papers. AI will sort or will cite sources that don't exist. It'll make up something to prove itself. You didn't know that?
Yeah,
I didn't. I guess I it doesn't surprise me, but it is. It's even another reason to be concerned.
Right.
But there's so many things to be concerned about that it's like I'll never sleep at night if I start going
Start
over each
worrying
one
about
of them.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did hear a story about that actually, about an attorney who used AI to prep a legal brief. It was for litigation.
Yes, I heard about that, but I thought that was an anomaly. I didn't think that was like commonplace.
Yeah, I don't know. The amount of times I've used AI, I haven't seen, like in my double checking, I haven't had AI hallucinate on me personally yet.
Have you even heard that term before just now?
Yeah, I have. I've heard that term because, like, hallucinating, you see something that's not actually there. That's what AI is doing. Is it seeing a source that's not really there, but it makes sense, so it inputs it.
Wow.
It's filling a gap, right? And so you do have to be careful, but I'm with Martine, like just how fast it can do like the mundane things that I can do, but I don't want to do. Like, for example, if I'm preparing like a talk at church, or if I'm doing this, I like formulating my own ideas. Like I always tell, someone who says, oh, you shouldn't use AI for church or anything like that. I say, well, I use intelligence for the ideas, but I use artificial intelligence to help me put together a format. Like, that's just going to take time that I don't want to take. So I have all my ideas. I can put it in and say, help me organize this in a way, in an order that makes sense. And now I've eliminated hours of work.
So you've talked about church and lessons and talks that you give. So I want to kind of go around and round robin and talk about some useful things that we found that maybe we didn't even anticipate that this would be useful, but now we've found it's so powerful that, it saves a lot of time. For me, it's about every 6 months that I'm looking for a new car. Not for my personal car, but, I've got kids, I've got a wife, and so the car issues come up a lot. And so I will ask AI, hey, is this a good car, or compare this car to that car? And it'll pull up all of the Kelley Blue Book information on it. It'll pull up the private party resale value. It'll pull up the retailer's value on it. It'll tell you what the common complaints are from Reddit or other sources, some from cars.com forums and things. And so it's an immense amount of information, research that would have taken me hours upon hours to compare these two cars. And it's pretty nice. And then I'll say, find me a car like this. Once it's whittled down what version I like better, then I'll say, find me a car. And so it'll start pulling them up on the different, it'll pull it up on Facebook. It'll pull it up on Car Gurus. It'll pull it up on Carvana. So all these different apps, and there's my cars now that I can look at to buy. So that was something unexpected. I didn't think that would be what AI would be trained to do, but it's been convenient. Martine, what about you?
Well, this one, I don't know how you guys would feel about it, but I had one of my friends come up to me who, thankfully, bless them, they have not had to pay taxes yet, ever, because they've worked part-time. Okay. And so they make under that threshold. But this year something changed where when they were working, they kept their, tax exempt status. So I was telling them, I'm like, hey, like, enjoy the money you're making now, but when the IRS comes knocking, you better answer that door, because they'll open it no matter what. And so what she and I did was, we got AI, we put in a rough estimate, she's going to make, $30,000 a year maybe, but she's been tax exempt this whole year. About how much, giving a ballpark, because AI loves to backtrack saying, oh, this is, don't trust this information. You need get it verified by a professional. It always likes to put in that guideline so it removes liability from itself. But it gave her a breakdown of, are you a student? Are you a dependent? Do you have any people that you could claim as a dependent? And the more that we told information, it was saying, oh, well, you're looking about paying about $2,000 in taxes if you don't change what you're doing now. So, I mean, I'm 20 years old and I'm no tax professional, but being able to compile that information for her, like, it was super useful. We would have never known.
Thomas, what's your feature that's come up and that, other than the talks and stuff like that, that has been either a daily or something that you've used that's made your life better? I think that in an unexpected way.
Unexpected way. I love, like, one of my hobbies. I just love, like, knowing what different groups of people, what their points of view are in different subjects. Like one of my good friends growing up, he's a Catholic priest, so we're always having religious conversations. So that's an example I'll use for this is if I want to find out, hey, what's the thought from this group of people on this subject, whether it be religious or economic, like economic policy through history. I don't have to go and pull out, a bunch of volumes of different book series. I can say, I want to know what was the prevailing idea of economics in the Roman Empire this century. And then I'll get a bunch of people, a bunch of scholars that say, oh, well, here's my thoughts. Here's the historical data on it.
But you don't have to read through their whole essay because the AI will compile it.
Yeah, it'll put
together an analysis for you.
Yeah, give me chapter and verse essentially of like what I'm looking for. So what previously would have taken me potentially, many hours, days, weeks to really find out, I can find out in minutes at this point.
Attorneys, we get paid for knowledge, and that's really our bread and butter. Unless you're going into court and you're litigating and making an argument, which is actually pretty darn rare, even for litigation attorneys. Most of it is done by compiling a bunch of data to determine how much a claim is worth and putting it together in a brief and shooting it over to the other side's attorney and saying, hey, this is the information I've got on you, and this is what's going to happen in court. This is our predictor, and let's settle this before we spend a bunch more time and money on it. But all of that is being condensed down and being done significantly faster through AI. So attorneys, I think, are one of those that are holding their breath that their job will exist in 10 years. And I know that Adam, he doesn't think it will unless we adapt and find what is the critical human component that exists there still, and then adapt and implement AI to all the points that can be, and then focus on that human component that can't be, and totally modify how we practice law. A lot of our clients are not, because our clients, for estate planning are typically 70-year-old retired individual, and they don't want to learn something new. They don't want to jump into technology right off the bat, but it's not going to be, in 10 years, I think that is just going to be commonplace. Just like you wouldn't see somebody 10 years ago using a smartphone, but now you don't see anybody not using a smartphone. And so I think it's going to creep into it. We use AI a dozen times a day in this law firm, and we're unapologetic about doing it. In fact, I think, and I preach to the staff a lot, if you're not using AI to help you draft, to help you even compose your emails or review your emails to make sure that it's going through and it's consistent in its phraseology and in its grammar, then you're not doing what you should. You're not doing your due diligence. So yeah, I think it's changing the way that law will be practiced. I don't know if I see us being extinct in 10 years, maybe 11, maybe, but 10
we're good.
10, I think we're okay. What do you think, Martin?
Well, I have this conversation with Adam a lot because, Adam's always finding out whatever's new in AI. Like, I feel like Adam truly he has his finger on the pulse of AI because almost every time I come down, it's something new. But what was a huge talking point for me and him was when he was showing me what HeyGen does and the way that, you can create almost a deep fake of somebody. And I remember telling him that AI is going to be the huge battle with AI is going to be who can sort out the misinformation. Right. Because, and especially like with Notebook LM, where you can make a podcast, what's to say that, some individual gains popularity and then starts using this AI to push a certain agenda or of anything, it could be anybody, but just because they have that initial credibility that they've built up, like people wouldn't be the wiser or wouldn't care enough to actually review what they're saying and just follow through with it. I think that's what the issue is going to be of how do we, fight misinformation? Because even as humans, we still can't fight it. We can't stop someone else from spreading lies.
Right. And right now, celebrity endorsements is a big deal. Like if you can get a celebrity to endorse, right? We have Dave Ramsey that endorses our estate planning office and the idea of getting your estate plan together. Even though he sells his own estate planning packet, he encourages his audience here in Yuma that if they don't have their estate plan together, come over and see his good friends Shawn and Adam and get their estate plan put together. And what you could do is you could create a deep fake of Dave Ramsey or whoever else, right? You could create a deep fake of Donald Trump and say, I endorse Shawn and Adam. And I guess if you want to be more realistic about it, you'd have somebody that is lesser known, or I guess not as hard to get a hold of as Donald Trump. Maybe, I don't know, I'm going to just pull out a name here, like let's say the mayor, right?
Mayor of Yuma.
Yeah, the mayor of Yuma. You make a deep fake of him and then say, this is the law firm I go to because I trust them. And if he brings a lawsuit saying, no, I didn't say that, you guys are using my name and image without my consent, well, you could have a video of him saying, well, yes, of course you consented. Look, we've got a contract here. We've got your signature here, because his signature is all over the place, right? It's on ordinances that have been signed out there. And so it's like, how would the court even figure out who's lying and who's not? And maybe even he gets confused and go, well, maybe I did, because people start to misremember things.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. And so I could see that as a concern. Who was it that, it was the guy that does Dirty Jobs. What is his name?
Mike?
Yeah, Mike Rowe.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike Rowe, he was talking about deep fakes with an individual on his podcast, and they showed him something that he supposedly said about Deadliest Catch when he was on that show. And he was like, okay. And they're like, well, what do you think about that? And he's like, well, I guess I just spoke off the cuff. It's not really consistent with what I'd normally say, but I mean,
You have me.
yeah, I've said it. Apparently, you've shown me it. And then they told him that was a fake. We actually created that. And you didn't even recognize your own voice and your own image, that wasn't you saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, oh my gosh, so I didn't say that. And they're like, right, you didn't. He's like, well, I thought there was something off about it, but I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, that's the thing. It's like, who's to say what's true anymore?
Mm-hmm.
That's so scary.
Yeah. Deepfakes would be a big problem, I think, for multiple reasons. I remember, was it last year? Some random product used Tom Hanks's voice. Like they deep faked it. It was a company outside the U.S., but he didn't really know who they were, didn't want to lawyer up or anything. So I remember he tweeted out just a PSA saying, hey, this is not me. I don't use the product, and we're working to see what we can do about it. But yeah, at what point do you have a right to your own voice? What right to your likeness do you have? And that's a big, I think, court case coming down the pipeline about.
But it's not like the courts have a monopoly on truth, right? The truth to them is what evidence is presented,
right?
And you can manufacture evidence with this AI.
Yeah, manufacturing evidence, that's even worse. But even if you don't manufacture evidence, just having the argument about what should be allowed as art, so to speak, and what shouldn't be allowed would be something else. That's I don't envy, the attorneys who are arguing that.
Yeah. Well, another thing is the practice of law, the actual, sitting in front of a client and finding out what their needs are, what their issues are with their family, what they would want to accomplish in the long run. A lot of times clients come in and they don't have the answers. They don't even know the questions to ask. And that's, I think, the human element that we've been discussing this entire time that is going to continue to exist at least for hopefully another 10 years. That's what we provide. And we have been using more and more technology. I've been doing this business for the past 15 years. And at first it was a database that would allow you to collect different provisions and put together a trust by just going through and grabbing provisions and putting them together. And then got smarter, and you could just click a button and all those provisions would line up. And now we've got an online that is AI powered, where we put in the scenarios and we say, this is this scenario, and we know what it needs to look like, and then the trust gets spit out and we review it before we have the client sign it. But we become much more efficient, and I think that now trusts are much more available for the general public because they don't take me 10 hours to write, and therefore I don't have to charge thousands and thousands of dollars for them to have me prepare them. But yeah, it's getting that the machine is doing much more of the work than I am, and a greater portion of the population is benefiting from it. I fear the day that they'll benefit from it when they don't need me, because now what am I going to do? I'm going to need to learn how to, do plumbing or be an electrician or something else.
Sure. Yeah. I think in my mind, what saves like the human element is somebody has to take responsibility. The buck can't be passed to AI. So like right now, AI, like Martin brought up, has that caveat, go talk to a tax professional, like don't listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And like at the end of the day, that's who we are, is like we can use AI if we want to, but AI is not going to get the malpractice suit. If we mess up, it's us. And I feel like even if AI got really good, somebody wants their pound of flesh. They got to have someone they can go to get that. And I think that's where you can't quite replace it, unless the companies who are using or are generating AI want to pony up.
Yeah, and of course, anybody that has gotten misinformation from Google and attempted to sue Google because of the liability that caused them, good luck, right?
Good luck
Even today. And it's only getting bigger and more distant away from the everyday person.
Yeah.
Each day that another company with AI is created. I find it odd that AI can create an image, can create a painting, can create even a video with my voice and my image, and but it doesn't put together a document and format it very well in Word. And now I just learned about one today, and literally after this recording, I'm going to have a demonstration that is being hopefully presented by a human being about how to use their product. But it says that you can be in your Word document, and especially with legal documents, they've got a lot of formatting issues. The page numbering is formatted into different sections and different chapters and so on and so forth. And you've got a lot of indentions. And so when I get the information that I like and I hone it down to the language, a lot of times the AI prompt is going to help me get to the language generally, and then I will massage it a little bit to get it to exactly what I want to say. When I paste it into my trust, the formatting is way off, and that takes more time to reformat it oftentimes than if I would have sometimes just written it in there in the correct format in the first place. So isn't that a weird thing though? You would think that the computers would start with themselves, right? And the formatting and saying, okay, take a look at this Word document. Now take a look at this and make this document that you've just created look like this Word document in the same format. And most of the times I ask most AI agents, they can't do it.
Yeah, I think.
Have you found the same thing?
Yeah, I have. I think AI, it's like I said, it's not intelligence, it's artificial intelligence. It lacks common sense. And I think that's very human. Like, for example, the example you used with the Tesla and replacing a tire, right? So like the Tesla's a beautiful, a well-crafted machine. It's got so much tech in it, but heaven forbid you replace the tire and the TPMS sensor isn't set. It'll think that you're about to just go off of a cliff. It'll give you all these warnings, and all that's wrong is that you changed your tire, and it hasn't recognized you've changed a tire yet.
Right.
Anybody, with common sense would be like, that's fine. The sensor's going to go off in a second. I just replaced the tire. But it can't do that. Just like PDF to Word is just like, I can't comprehend taking something out of PDF format and putting it into Word format. I think that's weird, but that's also job security in a way.
Yeah.
It's like AI doesn't have any common sense.
Yeah. I hopefully this program is going to help out a little bit with the formatting, because I'm working with Word documents all the time, and the formatting takes up a bulk of my time now.
Right.
Because I know the legal issues, and I'm well established in putting those together. And now it's just like the final product. Okay, we got to work and get this looking right, and that's a big deal. Martin, what's surprised you about where AI has lacked?
It doesn't like to be corrected. And I have two scenarios with this. And I know it's probably like weird saying like, oh, you're correcting AI, but one time I was doing this math problem and I just couldn't understand it. Like I had it written out in front of me. I had looked at the help scenarios and I just didn't understand it. And more specifically, it's not that I didn't understand the theorem behind it. I just didn't understand how the answer that was correct because I had done it. I got it wrong. I submitted it to AI. AI had gotten it wrong. And then I had found it in some Reddit, and all of those answers were wrong. And so when I told AI like, hey, so this came back wrong, and it was like, well, it can be wrong. And it spits back to me that same like step 1, step 2, like all the way down to whatever. And I told it like, well, it got graded as incorrect. What did you do like wrong? And I like to talk to my AI as if it were a person.
Yeah.
I hope that one day during the revolution it says like, you saw me when I was nobody, so you will be spared.
Yeah, spare you.
You were polite to me. You asked please.
I do, yeah. I even tell my AI, good morning. I hope it's been a good day for you. Just to, save myself. But whenever I tell it was wrong, it almost like shuts out the possibility for anything else, because it'll just repeat itself. It'll repeat itself, and when it's stuck in its ways.
Which program were you using?
I use ChatGPT, and then I use Chegg. It's like a study service. I guess.
Yeah, Chegg that's an old study help program. Predates AI actually.
Yeah,
you could pay for people to help you like finish your homework on Chegg back in the day.
All the unemployed teachers go on there, and they'll respond to the answers. And I've used it since like middle school, I think. So, and I think my family's used it before me. But
yeah,
how do you spell it?
Chegg.
Yeah, Chegg. And then there's also another one for math. It was Wolfram
you have to pay
Alpha.
For it?
Well. Okay, so technically, yes, you do have to pay for it, but if you know how to work around, you can get a couple of answers for free, because most of the time it'll show you an actual photo with it worked out, which is why I like it. My math lab, I don't know if you remember that. My math lab was
Math lab, I didn't see that one. Wolfram Alpha was the one we would use. It was the program. You could put an equation. It would give you the step-by-step solving scenarios, which I guess was the early forms of what we have today, like 10 years ago.
Yeah. And it's interesting going back, with the homework thing. Sometimes it's wrong. Okay, so you've got to know that. And that's why I think it's helpful, just like a calculator is helpful, or an Excel spreadsheet is helpful, or even a tire gauge is helpful. Like you can use a tire gauge and it can say, it's got 50 pounds of pressure, but you look at it and the tire's flat. It's like, okay. Well, that's not working. Right. You got it. You use your, sensors as well to determine what's right and wrong. And so with Excel, it's the same thing. You know about what the calculation should be, and you put in the formulas, and it spits out something, and you're like, okay, that's way off. If you understand the steps that Excel is going through and how it's acquiring the information, which in Excel or even Google Sheets, it's very, very easy to identify each of those steps, each cell that it's pulling from, and whether it's multiplying it or dividing it or doing whatever. With AI, it's not easy. You don't know how it's coming about, that information. And so it's really hard to say, okay, if I don't know what it should look like, and it comes up with some number, I don't know if I'm going to be like looked at as a town idiot when I come up with this number, because I am the town idiot because I don't know. And I've relied on this AI application to come up with this. But at the same time, my 12-year-old, he's coming home and he's at that point where he's getting into the homework with math, that it's not like, oh, this is what you do and this is what you do. And it's like, I vaguely remember that, but let's check this out online. And he's like, no, you can't put it into AI. My teacher told me if we ever do that, we'll fail. And I'm like, I'm just going there to like refresh my memory, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like a witness on the stand, like, would it help if you looked at your notes to recall what you said on this day and day?
Yeah.
Yes, it would help if I looked at my notes, you know?
Refresh the recollection.
Yeah, and so it's like, I think I know it, but I just want to confirm this step that I'm actually like, do I flip the fraction upside down before I multiply, or how do I do that?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I'm just going to go over in the corner, and I'm just going to refresh my memory on this, and then I'll come back to you. And is Dad helping you with your homework still okay at school? Well, yeah, that's okay. All right, well, Dad needs help first.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's no rule about whose dad tutor is, you know. So that brings me like a memory of like when I was at field camp for geology when I was in my undergraduate. Like we had a notoriously like difficult professor, and like the last thing you do in geology degree is go on a field camp. It's 5 weeks of camping and measuring rocks and hiking in the mountains, stuff like that. And there was an alternative field camp you could go to, and it was, and most universities kind of do this now. They use GPS data to, you know, find what the rocks are doing, and they can map things that way. You can just point your laser at a mountain range. Don't even have to be very close to it. But the professor I had, you know, bless his heart, we were hiking the mountains. It's like, you don't know geology until you put compass to mountain and like do it the old analog way. And we did. Mm-hmm. And I was much better for it because now if I was to continue in that field, like I know how to do it by hand and I can. So if I use GPS data now, it's okay.
Right. Because you understand what the procedure is and what the right answer should look like.
Right.
So when it's not correct and there needs to be some adjustments, you can spot those.
Right.
And that's why I still think it's important, you know, to learn handwriting and to learn, you know, where the letters are and what sounds they make, and then go ahead and read in a book and read it out loud and have somebody listen to you and take each of those steps. Learn math by adding, you know, 1 + 1 and then multiplications and understanding that before you just ask AI what the answer is to all of it. Because if you don't know that, then you can't possibly ask the more complex questions. And that's, again, the human factor of what we get paid for as attorneys is when somebody comes in and says they want to get their estate plan done, we start asking questions that when they say, I haven't thought of that, that is my reassurance that I'm still valuable.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, that's why I'm here, is to help you think of that and help you walk through the steps of what you actually want to accomplish because of an event that could occur, that we see occur, that you hadn't thought of. And had you not thought of that to ask the computer, it wouldn't tell you the answer because it wasn't asked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of the common things that I hear in a consult is like, well, I looked it up online and it said I needed this. So I'm interested in getting this, whether that be a trust, or maybe I want an irrevocable trust, or I need, all these different things. And that's one of the valuable things we can add is like, that could work, but there's a much simpler way to do it. Instead of spending hours and hours and thousands of dollars on this super complex plan, we could just do it this way and it'd be much more simple. Like, let's say use beneficiary deeds instead of all this wild stuff they don't need.
Right. And another thing that we have to explain to our clients often is there's the law, what's actually written in the statutes, and then there's the interpretation of the law that the judges get to do when those statutes are questioned, or they're maybe not as clear as it could be in a given set of circumstances. And then there's what the banks will accept, and real estate underwriters. What am I looking for here? Title insurance, what they'll accept, what the DMV will accept to transfer title. And so just because it's technically right doesn't mean it's going to work.
Right.
And just because it conforms with the statute doesn't mean there's not case law out there that has interpreted it differently. And that is very important so far in getting things done. And I think that I can imagine that AI will get closer and closer to that. We see it evolving every single day. Every day I hear of a new AI innovation that's come up. And But currently, we help put together plans that allow people to actually transfer their assets and their wealth to their next generation or their beneficiaries, whoever they designate, in a way that will work and conforms to the law. So we help those two combine together. Another thing that is an issue is just the credibility of the request. For example, a client can go to the bank and say, hey, I'm the beneficiary, and under the statute, I'm my father's beneficiary, I'm his only child, and he passed away, and under the statute, currently right now, I can receive $200,000 without filing a probate. So if you go to an account that's got less than $200,000 in it, all you've got to do is fill out an affidavit that he's your dad, you're his only beneficiary, and under the statute, that's good enough. But the bank's going to say, you know what, for $200,000, I don't care. You're going to have to lawyer up.
I want letters of testamentary.
Yeah, I want to see it on letterhead. I want to see it, or a court. I want to see a court issue an order, because it may. And you can print out the statute for me if you want to, but I'm not going to give you this $200,000 account, even though the law says it. And so, then coming in with a reputation and something to lose and malpractice insurance to go back on if we're wrong, and saying, yes, bank, this is the law, this is the actual beneficiary, here is the evidence that they provided me, we're writing it in an affidavit, that gives them the warm fuzzy that they need to go ahead and transfer that account over. And another issue that I think a lot of people really face the harsh reality with is a trust only works if you retitle all the assets into the trust or update the beneficiaries. And if you retitle an asset incorrectly, there's significant repercussions. For example, what would happen if, Tom, you ChatGPT to have a trust drafted, and then it creates the Tom Sparks Living Trust, and then you said, okay, I'm going to transfer my assets in the trust. You can take your 401k, which this firm very generously provides.
Right.
And you move that over and transfer the title of the 401k into your trust.
Yeah, I'm going to have a massive taxable event for withdrawing that money early.
Yeah, so you're going to get penalized 10% automatically for taking the money out. You're going to also be owing the tax on all the money that came out, and perhaps only a certain amount vested prior to you doing that. And if you withdraw prior to the time frame in which it vested, then now you've lost the employer contributions for that. So when we do seminars, we do live seminars as well as online, and we tell people you can go and get it done online. You can go and get it done by a document preparer. But when it comes to actually transferring the title of your assets, the title of your house, how confident are you that that document is actually going to work when it needs to work? And if I've gotten it wrong, I've got this building here that I'm well established in town. I've got this reputation that I want to uphold. I've got this malpractice insurance that you can come file a claim against if I do it incorrectly. However, if the computer's got it wrong, good luck getting that company to pony up the cash.
Good luck suing Google. Yeah, we talk about it all the time in our seminars. There's times for bargain shopping and there's times for not bargain shopping, with parachutes, for example. If I go skydiving, I'm not getting my parachute from the Goodwill, because once I jump out of the plane and I
or even from cord, what's your favorite place to shop online? Temu?
Yeah, Temu. Yeah,
My wife buy a parachute from Temu?
That's right. You pull that rip card out, and there's a couple stitches missing, and there goes a hole. You can't take that decision back, and that's what estate planning documents are the same thing. Is once you pass away, you're gone. You can't change it, so it better work, or else you might as well have not done anything.
Yeah.
Can I pose a question to the public?
Okay.
So here's my super important question. Since AI is advancing so often because it needs so many servers to store all the information, what do you think would be the point where society decides that we have to stop this. All of the graphics cards that are being used to handle all these requests, because AI is free. You don't need any subscription. All you need is an email and a password, and you have access to it. And even then, you could run out of like what are we on, GPT 4.0 or something like that?
I'm not sure.
Whatever the most recent is.
I think 5 is out.
Well, GPT-5, once you run out of your messages for that, you go on to 4, and then you go on to 4 mini. Like, you never stop having access to it. You just get smaller responses. So do you think there's going to be a time where society decides that, the AI, as much as help as it's done, it's also, all of the factories that are holding all these servers are just eating at our environment?
Yeah, there is certainly an environmental question about it, because the amount of energy that is required to cool the I don't even know what the storage facilities are called anymore that store all the motherboards that hold this information, but the hard drives and whatnot. A lot of them are being there's a massive one being built here in Arizona, in Phoenix, because we don't have a lot of catastrophic weather. We got heat all the time, but heat is predictable. We don't have the hurricanes. We don't have as many typhoons or floods or earthquakes and things like that. And so they're being built here. I've seen where they've come up with building them in the ocean.
Not seen that.
And so like ocean water is cooling them, but that's how big it's getting. Is they actually need to build these huge databases that are submersed in the ocean or other watertight, like warehouse size facilities, in order to keep them cool, because the energy that it takes to cool them down is a major carbon footprint. I'm not one of those that thinks that the global warming is attributed specifically because of our carbon footprint, or that global warming is necessarily a bad thing. But to the extent that you are one of those, and that is a moral issue for you, then that's a consideration to debate.
Yeah, I think that the technology of storage and cooling will sufficiently keep up with the demands of AI. So as we progress further and further, the footprints will get smaller, and I think because that technology is getting better and better as well. When you've got these micro SD cards that can, be up to 512 gigabytes, when that was unheard of. You used to be only have 2 gigabytes on those things.
But the we have this appetite for more and more information, and I think that our appetite grows faster than even the technology, if that's possible. And I think one good example of that is Dunder Mifflin's mantra. It's endless paper for a paperless world, right?
Right.
And we're not paperless. We go through a ton of paper. Martin, how many boxes of paper do we buy
in a month? Probably at least like 30 reams.
Really?
Well, combined between copy and bond paper.
Yeah,
at least about 30, and each of them holds 500 sheets.
And we are technically a paperless office, but that's how much paper we are still buying. And if you go out and you look at the data, and you could ask ChatGPT this, how much paper has been consumed? Has it gone up or down since the invent of the internet? I'm pretty sure it would say it's gone up. People are using more and more, whereas before you would sit down and you'd concentrate on a draft a little bit more, and you'd handwrite it out, and it would take quite a bit to use a bit of paper because you're handwriting it. Now you can print out a ream in no problem or no time at all, and that's not what I want. I'll try something else, and go with the next one. And so I think that that could be a problem, Martin, that you bring up, that the amount of electricity and rare earth materials required to create all of these computer components and cool them and maintain them, that is going to be a resource concern.
Yeah, I think if we stay on the current course and no advancements come as to what materials we use or what materials we can produce, I think we're on a course to eventually run out, or at least have some implication. But
at least have some type of shortfalls, or what's the word I'm looking for? Scarcity with the materials that we need. And we saw that with COVID. I mean, it came right away that there was, microchips. We needed microchips. We couldn't get microchips. We couldn't build cars. We couldn't get computers. We couldn't do a whole bunch of things.
Right.
We couldn't, every electronical device that you've got is going to use a microchip. And since, shipping was shut down largely, the access to microchips was shut down, or the access to the mining materials of the type of raw materials that go into building the microchips. And I don't know, this is just me looking back. I think that what we want is always going to be more than what is provided. It's always going to be more. No matter how much and how good and how fast and how small, it's always going to be more.
I think that's what drives the positive progress, though. Like, if you didn't want more than you had, like, you wouldn't do anything. You'd be content.
Yeah.
So I think that keeps the wheel moving. But I had another question that I've kind of mulled over, is the implications of AI plus robotics in like doing a lot of like our blue collar type of jobs and things like that.
Yeah, I see that as much further down the road.
I think that is far in the future, but like as a theoretical exercise, I thought, because I normally, if you ask me, does anybody rate any sort of base income? My answer is no. Like you work for what you have. Nobody rates anything for free. That's generally my response. But I was just thinking the other day, in a world where we have robots doing pretty much all the mundane tasks. Like your plumber is now a robot who can go in there and, whether that's, nanotechnology, and go through the pipes and do everything. Everything's a robot, right? What do humans do? We just do the artsy stuff all day. If that was a reality, how would you, at what point do you need to think about like universal income for people who legitimately have been priced out of the market because of the tech?
Well, we've seen industries that have experienced that to a large extent, and I would say the farming industry, right? Because one farm can have implements that do the work of 10,000 men. And so that displaced those 10,000 workers, right? And there's selectively few farms that produce most of the food that we eat. And it used to be that everybody could grow their own vegetables, and you still can, you just don't, because it's easier to go to the grocery store and buy them. But they would grow their own wheat, they'd have some of their own cattle, their own chickens, and they'd have their own homestead, and they would produce their things. But with machinery that was beyond the imagination of somebody that grew up in the 1800s, it has made it so efficient that it's primarily displaced the traditional farmer that walked behind a horse with a plow. And so I could see that happening with taxi drivers, like first, because self-driving cars.
Truck drivers.
I could see that happening. And Mike Rowe, that's a podcast that I really like. He looks at things from a common sense approach and says there's going to be certain trades that are going to be very difficult to replace. And those trades are building a house, being able to do repairs, doing plumbing, doing HVAC, being an electrician, laying concrete. Yes, there are tools that are going to help you become more efficient, but the human element is going to become more and more valuable because those tools are going to become expensive, and the construction needs are still going to be there. But I don't think the robotics is going to replace the humans as quickly.
Well, what about like in China, for example, where they're like basically 3D printing houses? Like they have giant 3D printers that they lay, it's just concrete, and they just go in a pattern from the ground up. And like, they're not beautiful homes, but they're a shelter. Right? Yeah,
but what we like is, we like our rooms in a certain pattern, and with toilets in this one, and there's got to be plumbing in there, and there's got to be electricity in there, and there's got to be some type of internet that gets to it, and the truck has to get the cement to it, and the truck has to get to the location, and the location has to be smooth, and the plans have to be approved. And I do see that people could build houses more efficiently. Certainly would become more efficient at building houses.
Right.
But I don't think that's lessened the demand for construction workers. In fact, you look for construction workers today, and they're hard to find. You look for subcontractors to frame your house, you're going to have to get in line right now.
Yeah.
And that's not because framing houses has become more difficult. It's significantly less difficult. It's because we want bigger houses.
Yeah, the demand
And more
has gone up.
complex.
Kind of like you were saying, is the consumption has gone up.
Yeah. Yeah. A house that was perfectly acceptable for us in the 50s that could have been framed maybe in 2 weeks is not acceptable at all anymore. It's got to be 3 times more complex, and the framing work is going to take a couple months.
Yeah, I could see that. I just wonder, I don't know if I'll be surprised or not as to like jobs I previously thought would have to be a human, if they actually could be replaced by like robotics. And I don't know, like I've seen some pretty crazy robots, like, none of them are for the common man yet. They're too, primitive or too expensive.
Yeah, and I think that what happens then is the corporations are the only ones that can afford those types of robots, and we're going to fill in the niches of what humans can do, either more effectively than a robot or cheaper than a robot. But quite honestly, working with our brain and becoming innovative, that, like what you do, Martin, setting up this show, it's a ton of automation that goes into it, but you are pushing buttons over there and clicking links and going back and forth through different hard drives. That just watching you do that is an impressive feat, despite the technology. In fact, I think it's the technology created that job. It didn't take away that job; it created that job.
Yeah, well, to Thomas's point about like robotics and stuff taking over blue collar, I actually see it as the opposite. I don't think robotics, because like just off my mind, like I think they're gonna be pricey. I think they will always be pricey. At least robotics that are meant to replace humans, like those types of robotics with all those capabilities will always be expensive. So I don't see them being used for blue collar. I see them being more used for white collar. They're in a static environment that'll never change, and most of it is going to be electronic,
like accounting,
and
so
those
finance jobs,
especially those like with just numbers. But the more higher up that you get into like these corporations, I think that those are just going to be at some point either be heavily AI reliant with just one person to quickly review, oh, is this okay, does this comply, okay, send it forward. I think that's what it's going to become, where for our blue collar things it's going to be humans will always hold that position because we're resilient. If you don't want to pay a certain rate, someone else will work for you. Like there's so many workarounds for it where I don't see robots filling in that part.
Or working on robots, right? Mechanics are extremely important right now in our economy, and they have to go to school for a long time because cars are tremendously complex.
Right.
And mechanics are in high demand. If you got a good, trustworthy mechanic that you can rely on to take your car to, you hold on to that guy.
Yeah, I think like to your point, Martin, though, like when I think of robotics, I think of the reason why you need them is because there's some kind of mechanical task. Something has to be lifted, something has to be, like you need. Otherwise, you're just using software. Like if you need your taxes done, I don't need a robot to sit in front of me and mimic a human. I just need to plug it into the internet. But like, the modes of, like a car mechanic, I imagine one day your car's got the check engine light on, it goes into the shop, they plug it in, it tells what's wrong, which is something we already do.
Yeah.
And then the computer tells you what's wrong, and then the robot tools go in, like where you can't reach with, where these stupid bolts are because the engineer never took apart an engine and doesn't see how it's a problem to put it behind this, thing. And they go and fix it, right? So I think that could be a future reality. And I don't think everyone will be priced out of the market, but previously that garage might have needed 50 mechanics. Maybe now it only needs 5, and the 5 mechanics know how to run, the machines. Which is kind of the same thing as the farm. Like you might need 10,000 people. The giant farm with the machinery still needs a few people.
Yeah.
But a drop in the bucket compared to what it did need.
Right.
So there's a lot of people that get displaced.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think we're all going to be living in this utopia where we just, make music and art and love and all is fine. Because the unemployment rate now with the machinery that we have is less than it was in the 1920s, right? When they didn't have that type of machinery and means of production. I think that our appetite will always exceed the ability to produce. It will. That's human nature. We will never have enough.
Yeah, I was thinking, just in theory, I have no reason to think this will actually happen, but theoretically, like you said, robots are expensive. Like cars used to be very expensive. No one could afford a car. Today, everyone's really got a car. You almost need a car, right? And like if a robot helping hand became that commonplace and that cheap, they could, like, maybe our appetite grows, but we just tell them to go do it.
Sure.
And I just think that's an interesting question, is like, if a robot can do it cheaper than a human, people will use robots. And if a human can do it cheaper, they'll use humans. So I don't know. It's just food for thought.
Yeah. Well, good show. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. By popular demand, myself and Martine are back. We thank the people of Yuma for screaming so loudly.
You did this.
Yeah. Thanks, Yuma.
That's a wrap.
Yay.
Thanks, Martin.